Today I'd like to address one more time what I think is the most important issue facing the country, because it deals so much with the country's future and who will be living in the country 10 or 20 or 30 years down the road, and that is immigration. To a large extent, we haven't addressed this issue as we should have, I think in part because we were spending a great deal of time on impeachment, and that kind of sucked the air out of other critical issues facing the country. I think even conservative media, be it talk radio or the other media, have not dealt with what's going on with immigration, have not pointed out the progress that President Trump has made, but also have not highlighted the things that have to be done if we are going to assure in the future the people living in this country are people who are going to make a positive contribution to the nation. President Trump, on his own, through a variety of efforts, has reduced the number of people who are coming in this country from over 100,000 people, 140,000 people processed last May, a time at which at least 90,000 people were placed in the United States somewhere, to well under 50,000, with under 1,000 people in January being placed in the United States, dropping from over 90,000 to under 1,000 is the type of progress you rarely see anywhere in government. However, Congress must, first of all, I'd like to thank President Trump for the things he's done. We now have the Mexican military patrolling the southern border, so it's not just our border patrol minding things. Even more significantly, the Mexican government has agreed to hold people who are seeking asylum. Prior to this, people seeking asylum, and anybody can seek asylum, were placed with a social services agency in the United States, frequently Catholic Social Services, placed somewhere in the United States pending a hearing and frequently never showing up for that hearing. Now they are held in Mexico, which is a big benefit and also will discourage people from coming here unnecessarily, and that I think the vast majority of people who were seeking asylum in the past were not even really subject to any fear or any possible danger in their home country. Just as significantly, President Trump has reached agreements with Central American countries to hold people down there who are seeking asylum from further on south. It should go without saying that if I leave Venezuela because I feel a threat to myself, the first thing I would probably stay in a country relatively near Venezuela. If I'm going all the way to the United States and having passed through 5 or 6 other countries, my primary goal is probably to improve my economic condition, not just escape danger in my homeland. And President Trump's efforts with Central American countries to hold more people are also paying fruit. However, we also have to talk about what has to be done in the future and what should be done by Congress, common sense things. You know, I'm not one of those congressmen using the phrase common sense bills, and kind of overused, but common sense things that I think the vast majority of Americans would agree. First of all, the Flores settlement right now requires having to release families after being held for 20 days. That obviously should be extended, and that it creates a very difficult situation for the United States government. Secondly, President Trump is trying to crack down on people getting welfare payments if they're coming here as immigrants. Obviously, in the future, we have no problem taking care of Americans who are going through a tough time, but we take immigrants here, given that we have $1 trillion debt, who can take care of themselves. It would be a big mistake, both cost-wise and as far as the future people who are coming here, to allow people come here if they will be taking advantage of our generous welfare system. In particular, we have to do something with what some people want, free medical care for people coming here as immigrants. I've been down to the border several times, and it's something that frustrates the Border Patrol. So many Americans right now have large deductibles and have to hesitate before they go to the doctor or hesitate before they have a procedure done. That's not true of people who come here illegally, and the Border Patrol believes that right now some people are coming to the country primarily for the free medical care that's being offered. That is something we have to get rid of. President Trump continues to build the wall as quickly as he can, given the way government operates. I am glad that President Trump was able to find money in the Defense Department to help along the wall. I want to point out that every Border Patrol agent that I've talked to, and I must have talked to dozens, believe the wall is a good idea. I realize there are people who haven't gone to the border or dealt with the experts down there, but unless you secure that southern border, you have a tremendous problem. And part of that problem, by the way, is the danger people trying to come here face. Somebody is going to control that southern border. It's either going to be the United States or the Mexican drug cartels. If the Mexican drug cartels continue to control the border, it means that some people are going to wind up dehydrating in the desert. It means some people are going to wind up drowning in the Rio Grande. And it means the people who come here are frequently going to be subject to the whims of the Mexican cartels. Sometimes that means sexual assault. Sometimes it means their relatives back home are going to be threatened. But we want to be the ones controlling the border and who comes across. Again, if we don't determine it, the Mexican drug cartels determine it. We have to point out that we believe that over 1,000 gang members were caught last year, and a higher, among certain drugs, over 90%, of course, according to DEA, have got into this country by going through the southern border. We really can't say we're serious about addressing the opioid crisis unless we do something at the southern border. The next thing that we should be addressing is sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities are an invitation for people to break American law. It's hard to say we have a serious immigration system where, on the other hand, we have individual local government people, in essence, saying, come here, we will not enforce our law. Another huge problem with sanctuary cities, it makes it difficult to deport the criminals. Obviously, we don't want the next generation of Americans to be criminal in nature, and the only way to deal with that, I believe, is to get rid of the sanctuary cities. Last year, 68,000 people died of various drug overdoses in this country. The next thing that should be done is we should be doing something about birthright citizenship. When I was down at the border, it was very apparent there were women coming here, and not a few, who were 7 or 8 months pregnant. In other words, they're coming here not because we handpick them, they're coming here because they realize that their children become citizens, and largely if their children become citizens and we're not for breaking up families, the parents will be able to stay here too. The United States is only one of 2 of the 45 wealthiest countries in the world in which we allow birthright citizenship. It's obviously something that we ought to get rid of, and this is another thing that Congress ought to do. In the upcoming budget bill, having talked to the Border Patrol and having talked to ICE, it would be a good idea to get more dogs on the border, not just to detect things coming in the country, but to detect cash going out of the country. And dogs today can do something about that, can detect cash. It would do a lot, I think, to stop the drug cartels from using our border. In any event, these are some of the suggestions that I hope Congress takes up. I think it is such an important decision because we know that very frequently when somebody comes in this country, they're not leaving. And if we're picking good people, and under President Trump in the last few years, the number of people sworn in legally has gone up. We're now on over 650,000, so if nobody says President Trump is anti-immigrant, we are getting more people here legally. But we have got to prevent people from coming here illegally. By continuing to do this, we will continue to create a situation in which the future of America will look more bleak because the type of people coming here are not the type of people who are handpicked.